Good afternoon, good evening, Marco here. So we're going to do another quick video. So yesterday, November 14th, was another day in this sitting, another sitting of the legislature in Prince Edward Island. And the most interesting thing that happened, I think, was debate on Motion 63, which I guess asked the government to release a backup plan in case the proposal to move the community outreach center to Park Street failed. So anytime somebody gets up to speak on this, they're not really talking about that. They're mostly pontificating about the outreach center in general. But anyway, there were some very good, interesting points that were raised that I think is worth going over. So let's get to it right away. Rob Lance is up first. So let's see the first clip and then we'll talk about it.
Because we do know that there is a segment of the people who visit the property that are not necessarily in a position, in terms of their mental health or their addiction issues, to really take advantage of some of the streams of services that are available to them there.
So, you probably didn't hear it before, but basically, I think Lance opened up his whole speech here talking about how he's going to give the people something or show some of the changes that they're going to be making right away with the outreach center, considering all the attention and the spotlight that's on it. He wants to give, I guess, throw a few bits to the people so that hopefully they buy on to his larger plan for reorganizing the outreach center. So already here he brings up the first major policy shift, I think, that he says is going to be happening with the outreach center, and which is the admission that there are certain people that are going there that can't be helped, that they come in with the wrong attitude or whatever not, and that the community outreach center is just not willing to help. And so I don't know what the plan is to do with those people. He certainly doesn't go into it. I think he was mentioning some other later on about how he wants to send them to a different channel, but that's already a big admission, because according to the Premier King, you need to show compassion to these people, and so this is a major policy shift. So I don't even know if he ran this by his boss. Did you run it through to your boss that there's some people there that basically you're not showing compassion to? I mean, you're basically, from what I understand, closing the door on them. Did you run this through your boss? Because that's certainly not the feeling that I'm getting when I'm listening to King talk about this outreach center. So anyway, I think it represents a major policy shift, and it remains to be seen what kind of rules will be implemented or how you're gonna go forward with this. But already that's I think a pretty big takeaway. So let's go on to the next clip.
We have people that need to access services in our system, but unfortunately, I think what's also happened here, we have to acknowledge, is that there are also criminal elements that have taken advantage of the lay of the land. And so we've got people taking advantage of that situation. We've got, some things are beyond our control. Some of those elements, those criminal elements, and the open drug use, some of this is beyond our control. We heard at the Birchwood School meeting about this federal directive issued by the Public Prosecution Service of Canada in 2020, whereby prosecutors have been told not to prosecute simple possession of hard street drugs. So when you've got this environment of open usage, impunity, it creates a dangerous precedent here where...
Okay, so we have another big admission from Lance saying that a criminal element is taking advantage of the situation at the outreach center. Now, I don't know exactly what he's referring to. I hear a lot of talk on social media about how drug dealers basically do business at the outreach center. So, I don't know what to say to that. How long has that been going on seriously? You're only starting to realize that now. I don't know how you even get to a point like this. But anyway, at least I think it's good that the government is acknowledging that that is happening, because, and it's kind of weird that it's coming from the sitting government. I mean, from as far as I can tell, the opposition and the liberals haven't brought this up at all. So it's kind of weird that it has to come from the government themselves doing self-reflection. It should have really come from the liberals. But anyway, here we are. So again, that's good. So it depends. What are you going to do about it now that this criminal element, as you say, has infiltrated this outreach center? Are you just going to bar those people from going? He was also talking, I didn't have it in the clip, talking before how the policy was that people could go out there and openly use drugs out in the parking lot, which I guess he's going to put a halt to it. Again, all good things going forward. Like I mentioned in my other videos, I think restoring law and order should be the primary thing to focus on right now for the area. That should be the number one thing. Is that going to solve everything? No, but I think it's going to make the situation better. You still got to get to the root cause of why people decide to use in the first place. But if they're going to continuously use and break the laws, because this continuous use of drugs is leading to break-ins, to violence, to harassment in the area, you have to put these repeat criminals in jail and make the community safe. I think that's priority number one. And then I guess the minister here also brought up a point that was brought up by Stephen Myers before, that there's this directive, I guess, that's coming from the Federals, which I'm just going to say it comes from Trudeau, because he's pretty much, like, he's been described as the first postmodernist Western leader that we've ever had. And I would say that's pretty accurate. So this whole thing about not going after criminals is right up his alley. So I'm going to say it comes directly from him. Not to prosecute people that are caught with small amounts of these illegal substances, which to me, that's even fine. I don't want to put people in jail if they have it in their possession. I think you should put people in jail if they break the law when it comes to other things such as break-ins, theft, open use, discarding of your needles in public property. I mean, I think, or if you do a drug deal out in the open, I think these are the type of things that you can go after. If I don't want to arrest people for simple possession, but if you break the law in these various ways, I mean, there's no other way, you have to go to jail. I'm not sure if I included it in the clip or not, but he was also, I think he goes later on, talks about how the police commissioner mentioned that you can't arrest your way out of this problem, which kind of like, again, leaves me dumbfounded, because last video we talked about how the police commissioner said the area is unpoliceable. So this is quite frightening. There should be a public inquiry, and he should be brought up to answer all manners of question, because it seems like he's basically given up on the area, and I find that hard to believe. Why is the area unpoliceable? Why can't you not arrest your way out of this problem? Like, those are pretty big things, that the number one responsibility of governments is to provide a safe environment, is to provide security for their people, like we talked about before. That is the fundamental block of civilization. So I'm just kind of dumbfounded why that's not more of an issue. Like, that's what the opposition should be going after. But I guess since they're liberals, I don't know, I guess they gotta protect their supreme leader, which is Justin Trudeau, and not call into question that's really the most fundamental issue. That's really, like, you need to tackle this if you're gonna tackle like this whole thing with the outreach center. Anyway, I guess Lance is trying to shift focus to the feds, but here's my thing. I don't know, like, you pay these prosecutors, right? You pay the police. Why don't you just tell them to just ignore whatever federal mandates or directives are coming? Since you pay their salary, you can tell them what to do. And if they refuse to do it, fire them and bring on someone else who will enforce the law. And just rinse and repeat until you can find someone that's willing to do the right thing and put criminals behind bars. I mean, I think that seems to be common sense to me. Anyway, that's enough for Lance. Let's move on to Brad Trivers, which I think has an interesting little moment himself that we should go over.
One of the big cries, and it might be in the motion here as well, is having there it is, the province's backup plan rely on community consultation and approval. So community consultation. So the very first thing that I said when we were considering moving the outreach center, because there was one before, to the location of the former Charlottetown Curling Club, was, you know, what does the community think? Do we need to consult? How do we work with that? And obviously, the history shows we did not have a public consultation. I took the advice I was given, rightly or wrongly. Perhaps that was a mistake. But I will tell you, I'm not sure that any elected representative has ever had a public consultation with their community, including the sitting MLA for the community. I would challenge her to have a public consultation and meeting with their community, because I don't think she ever has, as far as I know. The only meeting that was held, which she's referred to, it was one that I precipitated through my deputy minister at the time, at the outreach center, which she's referred to a number of times with all of the various different groups that formed up the steering committee that ran the outreach center. And Madam Speaker, I think it's really important to notice that. And so there we go. We have the admission, Madam Speaker, that the local MLA who serves the community, who is in the community, who lives there and looks after it, has refused to have a public consultation and meeting. She says the government should do it. Why is that, Madam Speaker? Is she afraid of the political fallout, Mr. Speaker? What is she afraid of? Is she afraid of her own constituents? You know, facing them face to face and realizing what the truth is? I don't know, Madam Speaker.
Yeah, that's it.
She has had a hard time, Madam Speaker, trying to walk this fine line between whether she really believes in helping the vulnerable or, you know, playing that political game about, you know, ticking people off. She really has. She really has. She's done that. She has been very, very unclear at various times throughout this whole process.
Okay, so what I think we have here is a very important point that Brad Trivers makes about Carla Bernard and her whole role in this debacle of the Community Outreach Center. From what I understand, she's a big champion of it. Obviously, the Green Party is basically the standard bearer for a lack of a better word, let's call it wokeism. We kind of talked about it in the last video. They're the standard bearers for all these policies. So harm reduction, injection sites. I'm not sure if they brought it up, but I bet you they would be in favor of safe supply and whatnot. All these ideas. And so it's kind of weird because it's just so ironic that she is the MLA for that district where all of this is happening. It's truly astounding. And like Brad Trivers pointed out, she's trying to walk this fine line where on the one hand, she wants to support the center, and then like she's supposed to represent her constituents, which overwhelmingly, I mean, have made it very clear that they are not in favor of this. They want drastic changes, if not the center outright shut down. And she seems like really running away from her own constituents. Like, I think it was a standing committee on housing or health. I mean, you know, that happened in like late October, where members of the community went to present. She was there, and there was a very, very telling moment where I believe her name was Haley Gallant asked her a very direct question, and she basically refused to answer it. She chose to ignore her, and I think so. Trivers' criticism is correct here, where like Carla Bernard is essentially running away from her own constituents. So, you know, this is one of the reasons why I'm really not in favor of democracies overall. I mean, like, I guess people keep saying this line, you know, they're the best system we have, but like, man, this system sucks. I mean, like, the last election was not even a year ago, so you have like 3.5 years where Carla Bernard would still be representing that area, even though her support must be around 30%, if not lower. I mean, she barely won the election, and now that she's refusing to stand up for the safety of her community. I mean, God knows what her numbers are right now, but yet the people there will be stuck with her for 3.5 years or slightly more than that. So just an awful situation overall. Although, let's not escape criticisms of Mr. Trivers himself. And look, man, like, don't be angry here, you know, respect, but like, you know, currently this man is the only follower on Twitter. He's the only MLA sitting currently that is following me on Twitter. So, you know, it hurts me to say this, but what you brought up where you refused to do public consultations yourself when you were the minister responsible for this file, and you took advice not to do consultations. I mean, like, come on, man. Like, I mean, obviously, I mean, you say that was maybe a bad idea. I forget what word you used, but like, let's be real here. It depends, right? The way I see it, if you don't want to do, I can understand why you don't want to do a public consultation, because it brings a lot of media spotlight to it. It keeps it in the news and makes it harder to pull it off. But if you're going to go that route, to just bulldoze a center like this and, you know, force it into the community, then you gotta make sure that you get it right. You gotta make sure that it's done properly. And the worst case scenario for the PCs basically happened. You didn't do a public consultation, you chose to ignore the community, you pushed the center in their community, and now that it's failed, you got the worst possible scenario. You look like, let's be truthful here, you look like a bunch of dumbasses right now. It's not a good look. So I get how a politician would not want to do a public consultation, but if you want to be quote unquote, not that they really exist, they're like this mythical creature, but if you want to be an honest politician, you obviously do the public consultation, you hear people's concerns, and then you might want to reassure them like, hey guys, you know, let's try it out for this long, and then if you guys are unhappy, we'll review this at X date, and if we decide that it's not working, we'll shut it off completely. That would be a way to go about it, but obviously you have to work with people, and that's much harder to do, so I guess they decided not to go with that. But anyway, let's just cut the video right here. I think these were very telling moments, very good to look at, and you know, that's it for now, and I'll make sure to do another video if they talk more about the outreach center in the future, and see what comes of it. That's it for now, guys. I'll see you guys next video.